not a lot of people, a couple of people that I know have switched from 5th edition to Pathfinder 2 just because they don't feel like 5th edition is quote unquote balanced. I've never played Pathfinder 2, so I don't know. I can't speak from personal experience, like how good it is in comparison to 5th edition. But if people start swarming over to Pathfinder, I think there will be something to be said about that. I think that will be a bad indicator for Wizards, and they're trying to take rules from Pathfinder and put them into 5th edition to stop that from happening.
I mean, honestly, they're just all stealing rules from each other. I don't know what, a lot of Pathfinder original rules were just D&D original rules and vice versa. If this stays in the video, this is just a bit of a call out to a certain community. There aren't that many people like flocking to Pathfinder. It's just like a really niche group of veterans that like think they're a large subsect of the community trying to, but in reality, like a lot of people don't even know what a Pathfinder is. I want to get a different perspective on this because I don't really talk to that many people about D&D. Why do you think Wizards feels the need to put out One DnD?
I think they knew the community has been expecting 5.5 or 6th edition for a very long time. I mean, I think it was released almost on the 8th anniversary. And I don't know if any other edition has lasted that long without an update, like a major rules update.
What I was confused about was like they're trying to kill the idea of an edition. Like in their marketing material, they're like, there's like a vague argument that like, oh, there's no more editions. This is like the final thing.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that as well. They're just going to put out, they're going to call D&D one thing. They're not doing it in editions anymore. There's not going to be a 5.5 or a 6. At least that's not what Wizards is going to call it. I don't know how I feel about that yet. I feel like they're trying really hard to close the gap between people that play newer editions and people that play older editions. And I don't think it's going to work that well because they didn't, if that's what they're trying to do, I don't think it's going to work that well because they didn't like include anything from the older editions that people really liked, like prestige classes from 3.5 or stuff like that.
Did you play any like the super or pre 5e basically? Like did you touch any of those?
I have played 3.5 once. One of my best friends is an avid 3.5 player. He's been playing since high school, and that was when 3.5 was out for him. And he and I have had a lot of conversations on the differences between 3.5 and 5th edition, and we get in a lot of like friendly arguments about which one's better and why.
What have you talked to them? What did they like think about this new edition? I'm really curious.
I don't think that he's aware of it, to be honest. He's not like a part of the zeitgeist. I don't think he's really going to care either because the only 5th edition he plays is at my table, at least as far as I'm aware. So he'll just go along with whatever rules I end up using.
Why doesn't he like run 5th edition normally? Like why is 3.5 his preference? Because this question will like help me understand like what these old players like care about.
As far as 3.5, the consensus we've come to in my conversations with him is that 5th edition is built to be a narrative game more than a mechanically accurate one, and 3.5 has much more mechanically accurate, like realistic rules. The problem with that is that there's just so many more rules. Like instead of advantage disadvantage like 5th edition has, 3.5 has that split out into, I don't know, several dozen different pluses and minuses. Like flanking, you get a +2 instead of advantage. Prone, you get a +4 or 5, I think. There's so much difference between them in that regard.
Okay, with that, then I feel like Wizards with this new D&D 1, they're trying to like cement 5e as what it is, because I saw a bit of granularity in the playtest packet. Like there was like the feat trees, those indicated to me that they're a bit willing to extend the complexity of the game, but I don't think they're trying to capture the older market.
No, I don't think they might be trying to, and if they are, I don't think what they're doing now is going to be you're right, I don't think they are capturing their older market. I think all the other changes they have done, though, they have had another goal of making it more inclusive. Like just looking at it from LGBTQ plus community perspective, D&D has been extremely inclusive. It has gone from what some people might call toxic masculinity, it's just old white guys playing the game, to literally everyone of every, just everyone, no matter who you are, no matter what you like. D&D has become something that anyone can do with their friends, no matter how many differences they might have. And I think they're going to make that even more apparent with their like rebuilding of the races. It's starting to bleed into the actual world, like with the new ASI ability score increases being tied to backstories instead of your race. We're going to see a lot more orc wizards and gnome barbarians. They're just going to start going against what is typical of a class race combination.
Yeah, in the race department, that was really controversial at some point, right? Like when they released Tasha's, like they were dipping their toes into that. Some people, there was like some outcry against like changing racial stat modifiers around, but it seems like they're committing to that direction at least.
Yes, they 100% are. There's going to be a lot more variance in the characters people make in general.
What I'm wondering is this mainly a response to shows like Critical Role? Because these race changes and the natural 20 changes, they feel like they're really geared towards that crowd.
I think they definitely have to take the fandom of Critical Role into account just because it's so big now. There's a huge, that is a very large percentage of the people that play D&D watch Critical Role. I mean, it's not 100%, obviously. There's definitely plenty of people that play that have never watched any stream, but I think it is something that they're taking into consideration. I don't think that they're catering to that specific audience too much. Like I don't see other than like releasing Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep and other official Critical Role campaign books that have been released by Wizards. I don't think that Critical Role's influence has bled into this new rule system that has been proposed.
Well, maybe it's not like Critical Role or like people who watch live streams, but they did this one, the natural 20 change affecting like all checks, the D20 test, right? They were trying to gauge like, because a lot of tables, especially more casual ones, if you roll a natural 20, then you succeed at it, right? Like
right, it's a homebrew rule at most of the other tables I've played at. And I don't think it makes that much of a difference, to be honest, because if you roll a natural 20, then you're getting a minimum of, I want to say 15, because if you have an actual ability score of 1, then that's a -5 modifier. So your maximum is a 15, which is a success in most cases still, I think. So it's going to be weird. I can understand both sides of it, why they're making this change, is because rolling a natural 20 feels good. It feels like you should win, and if you don't, then, you know, people can get butthurt about it. So they're going, I think they're trying to make the decisions that they think will make the game more fun, especially with the natural 20s and natural 1s applying to ability checks.
They're trying to like match the game, like how it's designed, to how it's actually played. And because you know about the adventuring day, right? Like there's some sort of controversy around that.
The adventuring day? I don't think I'm familiar.
It's not really a named thing, but oftentimes a lot of DMs struggle to like balance encounters properly because people just long rest after everything, right? Like after they stub their toe on something, everyone long rests. That happens a lot.
I've had that problem in my games several times, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
when the designers play tested the game for DnD Next, the previous play test, they played with like 6 to, or a lot more than what most tables play at. I don't remember the exact number. At least like four encounters like during their play test sessions.
Not just one.
Yeah, and then when it got to the public, people like wanted these more like cinematic encounters, just like one boss fight or something, and that turned, like nobody was playing the game how it was like play tested or designed when it actually got to the public, and I think they're trying to remedy that.
I think what the public was starting to do at that point was they were turning the games into something closer to movies than it was, and it was designed to be still dungeon crawls.
You think they're gonna try and kill the dungeon crawl?
I think they're going to, I don't think they're going to try and kill it, but they're not going to be sad if it goes away, I don't think. It is how all of it was played in the earliest editions when Gary Gygax first invented it. It was dungeon crawling. I think they are going to attempt to not change the rules so much that you can't write a dungeon crawl adventure. Like Dungeon of the Mad Mage is a dungeon crawl, I think. I never actually played it or read it, but it was released recently and it was a huge hit. So I don't think they're going to try to phase that out. Whatever changes they make, I think they're trying to make it work with both these cinematic adventures and these dungeon crawls. But I think they are going to start leaning more and more into the cinematic because that's what people have responded positively to. What
other changes then do you think are going to happen because people want that cinematic experience? Like we see what's happening in this packet, but what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, whatever happens next, it's not going to happen for a long time. One DnD is a lot of rule changes, and they're not going to make these solid anytime soon. I think the next Player's Handbook is supposed to release in 2024. So we have all of that time, and then all of the time after that to have people playtest even more until they do a new rule update. I think one change that I would really enjoy seeing, and one that has certainly made my campaigns much more cinematic, is combo moves. You know, like in an anime when they cast 2 spells together to do this cool, you know, scythe tornado thing. I would like to see some sort of mechanic like that for all classes to work together as a team to do a combo finishing blow on a boss.
Yeah, I've tried implementing a bunch of mechanics like that, and I think having developer support for something like that would encourage a lot more teamwork. Because right now there's like you're not disincentivized work with your team in combat, but like everyone's built their characters to like be a star all on their own. Do you get like what I'm trying to say? Like it's hard to put in words, but
Yeah, main character syndrome, where players think that the story is theirs, instead of, you know, we're all here working together to make this story happen. Is that what you're getting at?
yeah, and to a more like limited extent, not like because I think a lot of I think due to how the game is built in part, like when you build your character, that sort of like behavior is somewhat encouraged. Somewhat, not like not endemic.
Yeah, I think future changes, you know, would it be 4 years from now, would have an emphasis on teamwork, especially if that continues to be an issue, no matter how minor.
Did you see the virtual tabletop that they were talking about?
No, I didn't, but I know that it has turned some heads, and not in a good way.
Not in a good way? I thought it looked cool myself, but I'm not aware. Can you elaborate?
I don't know. It's just I only saw like a couple of thumbnails saying this virtual tabletop might take the game in a direction that we don't really want it to go. I mean, like originally, I think what it was getting at is originally D&D is played with dice, pencils, and paper, and that's it. I think that some people are going to not want technology to get too involved. I mean, it already has with the integration of D&D Beyond. It's a super helpful tool, and I think that better tech is just going to make this a better hobby in general. So I'm with you that the virtual tabletop that they're developing could be awesome.
It runs on Unreal and it looks gorgeous, at least with the assets I've seen. I was wondering why they just didn't buy Roll20 though, but
I don't think I don't think they bought. I think they decided not to buy Roll20 because there are so many other tabletop or virtual tabletops. There's a lot of other virtual tabletops that are way better than Roll20. At least in the circles I'm a part of, people really do not like playing on Roll20. It is glitchy. It's easy to sign up, but not that easy to use once you're actually in it. I know Foundry has an excellent tabletop. I personally, right now, am using Owlbear Rodeo, which is an even easier to use one, except things move when you click on them. And in Roll20, they don't always move. Like if you draw a circle in Roll20, it's almost impossible to get rid of it.
oh, dude, I hate Roll20. It is not relevant at all. I hate Roll20 circles. I hate Roll20 shapes. They are so awful.
They're so bad. So I think that probably with a couple other things is one of the reasons that they didn't just buy Roll20 or any other virtual tabletop. I think they believe that they can do a better job than those sites have done.
With Wizards of the Coast past history with clients, I'm not like the most optimistic. I'm looking at like every Magic thing ever. I hope it turns out well, but
we had a couple other topics, right? Feat trees, background and race changes, critical on 20. We sort of touched on all of those. I don't really know what they've done with feat trees.
they're like hinting at feat trees, like because they're putting like level requirements and like prerequisites to feats. All of the feats that have been shown don't have prerequisites or like don't have very strict ones, but the community is inferring they're gonna like actually build like warlock style trees, right? Like where you need like level taps or you need like previous invocations.
I actually like that. I know it's going to put a lot of limits on, you know, character builds in general. I know there's a lot of people out there that like to put together characters that are broken or cool in some way, and they're never going to play them. They just build them for fun. And I totally get that. I've done that a few times myself. Like, I wanted to figure out how best to use the sharpshooter feat if I'm a goblin barbarian. The build didn't go that well, but that's beside the point. I think the reason I like that they're doing this is because from a dungeon master's point of view, when the party hits level 4, right, and you get either that ability score increase or you get a feat, and I say, guys, you can choose a feat if you want to, and then it takes another hour for them to go through all of the feats in the book, in the player's handbook, and in all the supplements to like narrow down which ones they think are cool, because they want to read through all of them. I think putting a limit on the number of feats they can choose at level 4, depending on, you know, class level, however they decide to narrow it down in the end, is going to make that level up process much faster.
They're also, aside from also just making it faster character builds, they're actually making it like official, like base rule set, because feats are not a part of the base game. Like, they're technically an optional rule, though.
They are an optional rule, but I've never played at a table that doesn't use them.
Some of them are not very balanced, I'm gonna say that, but if they're putting feats in the base game, they're gonna actually have to balance it a lot better now. And they might give us like, they might do this thing where they have ASIs and then they have feats, like, as different things rather than like competing for the same resource.
You mean like half feats?
Some other systems do. No, like they might just give you feats at certain levels, like if they're just putting feats into like the game.
And it would be more like a class ability instead of a option in your character build.
It's like how your character sheet says ability score, or the level up advancement thing, the table. There's at level 4, level 8, level 12, you get an ASI.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe interspersed between that, there's just levels that say feat.
Ah, so feats on their own become separate from ASIs.
Yeah, that's what the competitor's doing, Pathfinder, and they've made a lot of decisions in this packet that resemble that game. So I imagine that could be a direction they try.
I wouldn't be surprised. I've heard a lot of people are actually, well, not a lot of people, a couple of people that I know have switched from 5th edition to Pathfinder 2 just because they don't feel like 5th edition is quote-unquote balanced. I've never played Pathfinder 2, so I don't know. I can't speak from personal experience, like how good it is in comparison to 5th edition. But if people start swarming over to Pathfinder, I think there will be something to be said about that. I think that will be a bad indicator for Wizards, and they're trying to take rules from Pathfinder and put them into 5th edition to stop that from happening.
I mean, honestly, they're just all stealing rules from each other. I don't know what, a lot of Pathfinder original rules were just D&D original rules and vice versa. If this stays in the video, this is just a bit of a call out to a certain community. There aren't that many people like flocking to Pathfinder. It's just like a really niche group of veterans that like think they're a large subsect of the community trying to, but in reality, like a lot of people don't even know what a Pathfinder is.
I think you're absolutely right. When it comes to playing different editions or different tabletop role-playing games, people that do play different games are very opinionated about 5th edition, and they have a tendency to get upset that there's so many people that only play 5th edition and are unwilling to try other tabletop RPGs.
Are you personally going to swap from 5e to whatever this monstrosity is?
To One DnD?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll buy the second player's handbook, but I will probably just pick and choose what rules to integrate into my own game. I think I will make the swap fully eventually, but it's going to be a very slow change, at least for my part. It's a big document. There's a lot of new stuff in it. I don't want to make my players learn a new system just because it was released by Wizards. I think I'll make it a slow and steady integration, with the biggest changes coming between campaigns. Like, I'm definitely not going to say, okay, your ability score improvements that you chose for your race, you can change those now if you want. It's just in the middle of a campaign. But I think eventually I will switch all the way over.
But I was wondering if you had any opinions on the Dungeon Master's Guide as it is right now.
It's not that good. There's a lot of useless information in it, and I hope that if they make a new one, they trim most of that out. Their rules for travel are not that helpful, at least not in that book. The majority of the Dungeon Master's Guide is magic items, and I think that they deserve their own book, their own publication.
Okay, there was the funniest clip in the One DnD presentation. The funniest thing, like on the topic of the DMG, the funniest thing was just this like 10 seconds where one of the lead designers was like, I'm going to restructure the DMG so it's more friendly to new GM, or yeah. Like, it was just that stretch of time, I was just laughing.
It's a slog. I did read it cover to cover once. That was a mistake.
Oh, I tried. It's the only core rulebook I have, and it was a bad purchasing decision those years ago.
No, Player's Handbook, man. It's literally got everything you need to play the game in the first place. Everything else you can just make up.
People have been, this is like loosely related, but in the, what was it, Spelljammer, right?
That is another recent publication.
Okay, so Spelljammer is relevant to this. So I think there have been a lot of complaints that Spelljammer has like terrible rules or something, or like it's the equivalent of like buggy coding in a tabletop. And Spelljammer, I think the reason why Spelljammer didn't turn out fantastic is because of One DnD. That's my little conspiracy tinfoil hat theory right now.
What do you mean? How does that connected? Is it because they were trying to use One DnD rules in Spelljammer before One DnD was even released?
No, I think like they were trying to meet deadlines. They're like, we need to release this massive presentation a week away before we release Spelljammer, or like it was a very close time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like rushed, and they're like, we need to kind of just get this through.
Yeah.
So
okay, I see where you're coming from now.
The monkey race glides 150 feet per turn. As a result.
Yeah, I can totally see how having these two publications, well, a publication and an announcement, really. But there must have been a lot of work going into both of those at the same time during their development. And I think it may have taken away from one or both.
Yeah. Any lingering questions in your mind?
No, I don't think so. We hit all the topics we wanted to. I still have to go through and actually read the whole thing. But that is on my bucket list.
It's a fun read, honestly. It's a fun read.
And I can do a little blurb in case you want to explain who I am at some point. Just this random guy on my YouTube channel for no reason.
Oh, no, you're not a random. Oh, yeah, just say who you are, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I'm Okayest DM on YouTube. My name's Dennis. I'm Okayest DM on YouTube. And I make content. Hang on. Sorry, I'm going to start that over real quick. I do have an elevator speech, I swear.
Okay.
I'm Dennis. I'm the Okayest DM on YouTube, and I make mistakes GMing or DMing so you don't have to.
Wait, that is a good tagline.
Oh, thank you. I thought of it like 3 days ago.
I like it, actually. We gotta put a like, comment, subscribe somewhere.
Yeah, there's like, comment, subscribes that you can like. There's like GIFs that you can just put on top of a overlay over a video. I should probably do that at some point.
Like, comment, and subscribe. I just gotta throw that in for the audio clip.
Like, comment, and subscribe.